It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Thursday, February 6th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center, a wintry mix of snow, ice, and sleet this morning. If you're in New Jersey, it's been falling for a while. Here in the city, just in the last hour or so, we could get around 2 inches of a slushy mix here in the city. It all moves out by noon. Then clouds the rest of the day, high 39. Tonight and overnight, foggy, low 38. And then Friday, sunshine, high 40. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 31 and sleeting in North Hempstead out on Long Island. It's 30 and snowing in Trenton over in New Jersey. And it is 30 and snowing right here in the city.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
Treacherous travel for the morning commute as this winter storm brings snow and ice.
I'd rather have, 6-8 inches of snow than a little, like a tenth of an inch or hundredths of an inch of ice. It's just safer.
Firefighters have been battling a massive fire at an apartment building in Harlem overnight. President Trump's proposal calling for the U.S. to take over Gaza being rejected by many in the Middle East and even some in his own party. A Westchester park closed today after 12 geese were found dead.
Keep them out of there, and we're sure that the park is safe, then we'll reopen it again.
Staten Islander Tommy Lane has found a solution to the high cost of eggs.
I have them every morning. Every morning, wake up, the kids come out, they get the 4 eggs, they bring them in, we can eat them for breakfast, we can put them in whatever we have. I don't have to worry about any egg shortages. They're always here for me.
All right, 501, let's get into those stories and more. Let's start with the treacherous travel for the morning commute. Winter storm bringing snow, ice, and rain to the city and to the tri-state, moving from New Jersey northwards. If you're in parts of New Jersey, you're going to see a fair amount of snow. It's the ice that's going to be the issue, and no doubt Joe Nolan will be up in a few to tell us what it's like in New Jersey already. Here in the city right now, it's wet streets, but it is cold enough for all this to turn to ice. It's only 30 degrees. So the snow will change that to sleet and freezing rain, ultimately all rain. The farther north you live, the longer the changeover will take. So, of course, that'll be more snow.
I brought my laptop from work so that I won't have to go out, hopefully until after it calms down. That's the goal.
Ice is always make me take pause and, rethink how I do anything. Like, usually I stay home if they say it's going to be ice.
There are a slew of school delays, some school closures already this morning because the storm is perfectly timed for the morning commute. So those schools not taking any chances, school delays. Imagine some of those delays will turn into all-out closures if this gets bad. Accumulations will range from a coating to 2 inches here in the city up to 4 inches north and west, with higher elevations getting the most snow. So we were watching overnight as the streets were being sanded, salted, brine put down, all to stop them from freezing. And they seemed to do a good job because I heard a lot of crackling under my wheels as I was driving into the city earlier this morning.
I'd rather have, 6-8 inches of snow than a little, like a tenth of an inch.
Yeah.
Or hundredths of an inch of ice. It's just safer.
Yeah, that's one of the plow guys. He says it's much harder to handle with the ice than it is the snow. Joe Nolan going to be up in just a few minutes with the latest how things are going on the early morning commute. Firefighters battling a massive blaze overnight in Harlem. The 4-alarm fire broke out about 9 o'clock last night. 5-story building. This is West 139th Street, right between Lenox and Powell Boulevard. Nearly 40 units, 170 fire and EMS personnel on the scene. Here's somebody who was in the building next door. So one of the buildings that caught fire was vacant. Then it leapt to a building with apartments. And this dad was with his daughter in the building last night.
I looked out my window. We seen flames coming out. My daughter, both of my daughters and my wife is in the building right there. We just had to run downstairs. It was smoky, but we didn't know where it was coming from. But when we looked out the window, we just seen the sparks coming out.
5:04, an elderly woman is dead, hit twice as she crossed to Manhattan Street last night.
The unnamed 90-year-old woman was crossing York Avenue on the Upper East Side near 72nd Street around 5:40 p.m. Wednesday. Police say she was hit by a yellow cab. The impact knocked her to the pavement, and as she lay in the street injured, an SUV ran her over, partially pinning her. The woman was rushed to a hospital but could not be saved. No charges for either driver so far, both of whom stayed for police, in part because she was crossing in the middle of the block. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
5:05, let's go down to Washington. President Trump's proposal calling for the U.S. to take over Gaza being rejected by many in the Middle East. Correspondent Yasmin Vosageran is in Tel Aviv.
Saudi Arabia denouncing the notion of Gazans having to leave Gaza to the Egyptian foreign minister essentially saying we need to continue to rebuild Gaza. Hearing from Iran as well, denouncing this notion from the Palestinian Authority over in the West Bank.
And Vosagian says the plan may become a uniting factor, bringing together many in the Middle East as well as Russia and China who oppose it.
We could see a uniting factor around this very issue of President Trump claiming that Gazans should leave Gaza, a uniting factor between not only the Middle East, but also we could see Russia and China coming into this conversation.
Now, the White House pushing back against that, saying that they're serious, but some of the things that the president said yesterday were being sort of walked back by his press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, who said the president made the decision about this proposal with a humanitarian heart for all the people in the region.
The president is committed to eliminating Hamas and securing a lasting peace for the entire region.
Now, yesterday, the president talked about potentially committing troops to get things done in Gaza as they rebuild there. Some of that is walked back yesterday.
Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. President Trump is an outside-of-the-box thinker and a visionary leader who solves problems that many others, especially in this city, claim are unsolvable.
Yeah, so that was the argument yesterday. It was at least he was coming up with some innovative, interesting solution to fix what's wrong in Gaza, where 70% of the buildings are destroyed. 70%. So lots of people have no place to go home to. So his, of course, idea was to move people out to nearby countries. But those nearby countries don't necessarily want the Palestinians.
And as the president said, the bonds of friendship and affection between the American and Israeli people have endured for generations and are absolutely unbreakable.
WABC News Time 5:09. Let's go down to Washington. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth promising continued support for Israel.
We've supplied munitions that were previously not supplied that are useful in eradicating radical enemies, and we are committed to continuing to do so.
So during a meeting at the Pentagon with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Hegseth said the Defense Department under President Trump laser focused on reviving the warrior ethos, on rebuilding America's military. When he was questioned by reporters, Hegseth non-committal, though, about sending troops to Gaza.
The president is involved in very complex and high-level negotiations of great consequence to both the United States and the state of Israel, and we look forward to working with our allies, our counterparts, both diplomatically and militarily, to look at all options.
Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu telling the defense secretary that Israel appreciates the support from the Trump White House.
With our alliance, with your support, including the decision you just mentioned of supplying Israel the much-needed tools for our defense, we are a lot stronger than we've ever been.
Okay, so yesterday, you'll remember the president making this announcement. Actually, it was now 2 days ago about Gaza and rebuilding Gaza to make it nicer, much nicer than it is now. And the thought was to take the Palestinians and move them to nearby countries like Egypt and Jordan. But you get the sense both those countries have no interest in taking in the Palestinians. So there's another idea, apparently, that's been hatched over the last couple hours. Send them to other countries like Morocco, Puntland, and Somaliland. Apparently, these are nations where the president would have more power to tell them, you must take these Palestinian, I guess you would call them refugees, from Gaza in until Gaza's rebuilt. Now, the question is how many of those Gazans would want to leave and how many would be allowed back into a rebuilt Gaza, and how long would all that take? Of course, that's all up in the air. Lots of questions that still need to be answered. 5:11, while we're in Washington, the White House says President Trump delivering on a campaign promise regarding women's sports and transgender athletes. Trump signing an executive order now that bans transgender athletes from taking part in women's sports. Here's the White House spokeswoman.
This common sense action from President Trump ends the disgusting betrayal of women and girls by the previous administration.
The order will direct the Department of Justice, other federal agencies, to interpret Title IX rules as banning transgender women and girls from taking part in female sports. The order will require immediate enforcement of the rules.
He does expect the Olympic Committee and the NCAA to no longer allow men to compete in women's sports. I think kids have already been exposed to discrimination, especially young women and girls who have been forced to shower in locker rooms with biological men, who have been forced to compete on playing fields with biological men, which is incredibly unfair and unsafe, and again, an incredibly unpopular policy.
And already this morning, some of the swim team at the University of Pennsylvania, where it's transgender woman, took and won so many female swimming records there, are now going to sue University of Pennsylvania, where all that took place. 512, ICE releasing migrant detainees because of overcapacity now in some detention centers.
A report from CBS News shows facilities were at 109% capacity as of Tuesday. That's after releasing 160 migrants the day before. ICE said in a statement that it's asking Congress for increased funding to solve the overcrowding issue, along with working to remove undocumented immigrants. I'm Brian Shook.
513, President Trump, he hasn't even been in office for a month. And there are now some Democrats that are already talking about impeachment.
I rise to announce that the movement to impeach the president has begun.
Texas Democrat Congressman Al Green there. It was President Trump's plan to take control of Gaza that apparently sent Al Green over the top.
I will bring articles of impeachment for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done.
Not sure how many Democrats are on board with an impeachment process only 3 weeks into the administration. Pam Bondi is the country's new attorney general. She was sworn in yesterday after the Senate confirmed her earlier this week.
I will restore integrity to the Justice Department, and I will fight violent crime throughout this country and throughout this world and make America safe again.
She is, of course, the former attorney for President Trump, has called for the prosecution of those involved in investigating Trump's felonies. Tuesday's vote for her was 54-46, with Democratic Senator John Fetterman joining Republicans to vote in her favor.
I, Pamela Bondi, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
And President Trump spoke right before Bondi was sworn in as Attorney General.
She's going to end the weaponization of federal law enforcement and restore honesty and integrity at the DOJ and the FBI.
514, Democrats want to bring Elon Musk before Congress as part of a bid to do a deep dive on cuts to federal agencies.
Let's talk about waste, fraud, and abuse. The biggest fraud in U.S. government right now is Elon Musk.
Texas Congressman Greg Kuzar there, part of a group of Democrats on the House Oversight Committee who want to subpoena Musk to testify. That was shot down by Republicans in a party line vote. They say Musk is working with President Trump on the so-called Make America First agenda. But this Texas Democrat says if the president wants to cut down on waste, fraud, and abuse, he says he needs to start with firing Elon Musk.
Elon Musk pretending to care about efficiency when what he cares about is taking your taxpayer dollars and enriching himself. The biggest abuse in the U.S. government right now is Elon Musk getting $154 billion richer since the election.
Congressman accusing Musk of making moves that only benefit himself and his billionaire friends. 515. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Friday Eve. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Happy Friday Eve. Good morning to you, Noam Layden. We will begin with some more good news for New York Mets fans this baseball offseason. Slugger Pete Alonso and the Mets are in agreement on a 2-year, $54 million contract, sources told ESPN yesterday, ending a lengthy free agency with a return engagement to the only team for which he has played. The deal, which is pending a physical, includes an opt-out after the first season. Sources also said Alonso will make $30 million this year, obviously rejoining that now much more potent Mets lineup with the addition of a one Juan Soto. That'll be a nice 1-2 punch there. On the ice at Madison Square Garden, Chris Kreider scored the tie-breaking shorthanded goal midway through the third period, and the Rangers rallied to beat the Boston Bruins 3-2. Artemi Panarin and Vincent Trocheck also scored, and Mika Zibanejad had 2 assists for the Rangers, who won their second straight after a 3-game losing streak. Igor Shesterkin had 15 saves. Kreider's goal was the 320th of his career. The 33-year-old forward is now third all-time on the Rangers goals list. New York improved to 14-11-2 at home with the win. Coming up next for them, a date with the Pittsburgh Penguins at home tomorrow night. To the NBA and the Barclays Center, where the Nets came back down to earth in the form of a 119-102 loss to the visiting and lowly Washington Wizards. The Johnsons, Keon and Cam, put up 25 and 17 respectively for Brooklyn. The Wizards outscored the Nets 23-12 in the third quarter as Brooklyn missed 15 of its 19 shots from the field. They dropped to 6 and 17 at home this season. Up next for the Nets, they'll welcome the Miami Heat to Brooklyn tomorrow night. Also out of the NBA, speaking of those very Miami Heat, the Jimmy Butler saga ended last night when he was traded to the Golden State Warriors as part of a multi-team mega deal. The Warriors closed the deal for Butler after negotiations to acquire Phoenix Suns star Kevin Durant ended when Durant informed the team he did not want to return to Golden State. The Warriors, Heat, and Suns had been nearing an agreement on a trade that would have landed Butler in Phoenix and Durant back where he won championships in 2017 and 2018. As part of the agreement, Butler will decline his $52 million player option for next season and is planning to sign a new 2-year, $111 million deal that carries through the 2026 to 2027 season, sources also did reveal. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 520. The Department of Education investigating reports of anti-Semitism at 5 universities. Nick Harper has more.
The announcement follows an executive order signed by President Donald Trump. He's warned foreign students studying in the U.S. who take part in pro-Palestinian protests on U.S. college campuses, telling them that they will be deported. And he said that student visas will be revoked for anyone he describes as Hamas sympathizers.
California Governor Gavin Newsom, he was on Capitol Hill yesterday, meeting with Trump administration officials for aid for victims of the Los Angeles wildfires, also meeting with members of Congress, including California Democrat Pete Aguilar.
We need to keep the politics out of this, and I think that there are a number of Republicans who feel the same way.
The governor also meeting with FEMA, details about the disaster relief fund. He admits that the government shutdown, potential government shutdown in March worries him because he says this needs the money now.
We'll work in a process that meets the needs of the American public who are going through disasters, no matter if they are in a blue state or a red state.
And the California delegation of lawmakers, they say this shouldn't be a political hot potato. They say they should get the federal aid they need just like anybody else who makes a disaster declaration.
We expect that Congress will do that, and we look forward to having disaster aid pass as swiftly as possible.
Yeah, so CAL FIRE says when you combine the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire, 29 people were killed. More than 1,600 structures were damaged or burnt down. Meanwhile, Los Angeles County supervisors are seeking some tougher penalties for landlords who continue to price gouge after the wildfires. These guys spiking up the cost of rent really high to get more money. And so now they're going to pass some rules that will fine some of these landlords who spike those prices.
This county should have to worry about being taken advantage of by predatory price gouging.
Yeah, so
period.
Those landlords that are caught doing so could get a $50,000 fine. 522, Americans bracing for higher prices as Trump-era tariffs take effect with an additional 10% tax on all goods being imported from China. Consumers are worried about the cost of several items skyrocketing.
Clothing, shoes, definitely fruits, vegetables, that kind of stuff. You know, and it's hard for people. It's hard, especially if you have young children.
I mean, I voted for Trump, but not the tariff of other countries. That's going to hurt our economy.
Yeah, so trade experts say tariffs could drive up the cost of sneakers, videos, games, and toys. Of course, we're on a 30-day pause with Canada and Mexico. So this is so far just the tariff, 10% tariff on China.
I think we just got to go with the flow. It's unfortunate, but it's the way of the world.
Save money. All the stuff that you was doing, like hanging out and buying
unnecessary stuff, you all have to stop now and think about the future.
Those are some New Yorkers. Some New Yorkers in Midtown say they think the tariffs are just a negotiation tactic on the part of President Trump, which seems to be the case so far in Mexico and Canada, so they're not as worried as others.
With Trump, I didn't vote for him and I don't like him, but it always seems like it's a spectacle of like a threat and then nothing happens. So I try to keep that in perspective.
523, the U.S. Military Academy at West Point disbanding a dozen clubs relating to gender and race now.
A memo from its deputy commandant said the academy is acting in accordance with President Trump's executive orders connected to diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Those clubs include the Asian Pacific Forum Club, Japanese Forum Club, Latin Cultural Club, National Society of Black Engineers Club, Native American Heritage Forum, and Society of Women Engineers Club, among others. The clubs were directed to, quote, permanently cease all activities and remove or deactivate all public-facing content, but records of them may be kept. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
524, let's go down to Florida. It's not cheap protecting a president of the United States. Palm Beach County's finding that out as they try to protect President Trump. They say they've spent about $45 million to cover the costs of overtime through November of last year. And now they want some of that money. They've seen some of it, but they say there's still millions of dollars they're hoping to be paid back by the federal government for protecting the president-elect back then and the president going forward when he goes home to Florida.
We've already heard some information where he may be spending more time here than in Washington.
Yeah, and they say the cost of protecting world leaders that come to visit the president at Mar-a-Lago, that costs a lot of money, too.
It's expensive, but we don't really have a choice. We cannot let something bad happen for the third time, regardless of who it is, whether it's him or any other president. We just can't let it happen.
He's talking, of course, about the 2 assassination attempts on the president.
During the President Trump's last term, we were reimbursed for all of the funding that we expended for security.
Yeah, so they're just making sure that that's going to happen this time around. With the price of eggs skyrocketing at the market, people all over the country are looking for alternative sources. I guess one thing is you just potentially could cut out eggs, but that's not so easy to do. But what we are seeing is people, buying their own chickens so they can have their eggs right in their backyard. I mean, they're actually tastier when you do them that way. So here's a woman in Florida who's done that. She actually started by buying the chickens just for herself, and then she started selling eggs to neighbors. And now with the egg shortage, she says she wishes she had bought more chickens because she could be making some serious coin.
60 eggs approximately a day, and we have 130 chickens. If I knew that was the case, I would have gotten more chickens.
Yeah, so she calls herself the egg seller. She sells now the eggs for $1 an egg, which seems like a lot of money, but stores here in Manhattan are selling those organic eggs. It's about $1 an egg.
No, we keep them safe in our backyard. There's no way that they can get bird flu. We see each one every day. We take care of them. It's like pets for us.
Of course, if you haven't been following the story, the reason egg prices have gone up is so many flocks of birds have had to be euthanized because of the bird flu. And so she's watching her flock very closely. She says, no, my birds aren't not going to get bird flu.
So there is chicken, horses, goat, sheep. It's West Davie. In this area, you're allowed to.
Yeah, so she says, you should probably think about setting up your own backyard chicken farm if you want to. By the way, before we finish this hour, we'll check in with a Staten Islander who's done exactly that. He's going to tell us about his experience.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yep, that's me, 5:35. Good morning. It is Thursday, February 6th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. It's going to be a messy mix this morning. So this wintry mix of snow, ice, and sleet has started to move here into Midtown. We could get around 2 inches of slush here in the city. The worst part is if it all turns to ice. So far, it is just wet streets. But the storm all moves out by noon, and then clouds the rest of the day, the high 39. Tonight and overnight, it'll be foggy, low 38, and then Friday's just going to be nice. Sunshine, high 40. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are, it is 31 and sleeting in North Hempstead out on Long Island. It is 30 and snowing in my former hometown of Trenton over in New Jersey. And it is 31, and we'll call it light snow right outside our Midtown studios. We'll start this half hour up in Westchester County. The question I keep getting asked is, should we be worried about the bird flu? And when I see stories like this, I start to wonder maybe we should be. Because sometimes in the news business, we've been accused of overhyping stories, but maybe in this case, we are not. Up in Carroll Park, that's in Thornwood in Westchester, they closed the park because 12 Canada geese were found dead in a pond. And the town supervisor there said, "You hold on a second, let's find out what's happened to these birds," because we know the flu can move from bird to bird or from animal to animal. And we know it can move from animal to human. The good news is, so far, it is not moving from human to human, because we know how many birds have been euthanized over the last couple months.
True.
I don't know when they're going to fix my audio, but I'm about to scream. But here we go. Let's try and see if it works now.
The bird flu,
there we go.
Which to this time right now, we don't have a definitive answer on that. We don't allow anybody to go into the park until we know it's safe for people to go in there.
Right. So they closed down the park because a lot of people walk their dogs. And so the question is, can the bird flu go from the bird to the dogs? So they'll have the official results on these dead birds today, and we'll know if it's the avian flu.
We can keep them out of there, and we're sure that the park is safe, then we'll reopen it again.
Yeah, so there were some birds in the pond yesterday. So, of course, this is what they're telling people to do. If you see this kind of thing, dead birds in a park, for sure, let animal control know about it.
Because our understanding, if it is avian flu, it passes between different species, so we want to keep people and pets safe.
Yeah, so we'll follow the story. We'll let you know what the results are as soon as they come out today. We'll let you know, of course, on the News Hour tomorrow. WABC News Time, 5:39. Let's go to Newark, New Jersey, and a story that is so incredibly heartbreaking. Maybe you followed this. Last Friday, 9-year-old Yazin Morrison was being dropped off at his grandparents' house for the weekend. And you can imagine how excited a 9-year-old kid would be to be spending time with his grandparents. And as he was about to walk in the door, all of a sudden bullets go off and he's shot and killed. And so this neighborhood has just been rocked by this story. And thankfully, yesterday, police caught the person they believe is the gunman. It's 36-year-old Jesse Dunbar. The child's grandparents, you can imagine, just beside themselves. They want to know why this individual, Jesse Dunbar, was shooting in the direction of their grandchild.
If you ever had one of his hugs, you would remember it for the rest of your life. I'm going to miss the park. I'm going to miss you going to the supermarket with me. He just was the sweetest boy. He liked Incredibles. He liked Toy Story. And he loved his family.
Yeah, so this little boy, just so upsetting. He was getting out of the car to run over to his grandparents, and that's when the bullets started to fly. He was hit right away. His sister was with him. Thank God they missed her. He was taken to a local hospital on Friday where he was pronounced dead. So police not sure what really led to the gunfire, as this family is in deep, deep mourning.
I feel elated that the city rallied around and everybody wouldn't stop until they got somebody. And I'm happy that they caught the person, but it will never bring us Jackson back.
Of course. And for now, the family is hanging on to the memories of their greatest gift, this 9-year-old in his 9 short years on life.
He taught me unconditional love. He taught me patience. He taught me humility. He taught me so many things that I'm going to miss that every day.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to that family. By the way, Newark police tell us they will hold a press conference today where they will release more details about this shooting, maybe a motive, maybe why this individual would be shooting at kids. 5:42, let's bring it back here into the city. Police investigating after human remains were found in a suitcase in the East River yesterday. Gruesome discovery made about 5:30 or so last night. NYPD Harbor Unit retrieved the suitcase in the East River. This was right near Governor's Island. They took it to Pier 16. That's when they realized what was inside. The medical examiner now going to try to determine the cause of death. And, of course, obviously try to figure out who it is. Mayor Adams yesterday talking a little bit about what took him down for the count last week. You remember he was out from Sunday to Thursday, I think it was, saying that he was not doing well. He was sick, and they never really told us what this health scare was. But here he was talking about it yesterday.
I feel much better, both mentally and physically, but also I have a new course when it comes down to my health, and I'm going to be cooking a lot of my food again. I stopped cooking my own food.
Yeah, he's eating out loud a lot, and as you imagine, as a mayor, you might do that. Adams says he had a pain in his side, and his doctor had him take a series of tests, including ones that required anesthesia. They came back negative. He says his doctor wants him to refocus on his health after gaining 25 pounds. He doesn't look 25 pounds heavier. He looks kind of fit to me, but apparently that's not the case.
ICE carry out actions all the time in the city.
Well, he's talking about something there. But Adams says he's been eating too many pastries and will go back to having a more healthy plant-based diet. Remember when he ran last time, he talked about his plant-based diet. Of course, he says now he's a pescatarian. I guess he eats fish. Here he was talking about that.
All the tests came out negative. They want me to do some follow-up, but I feel good. But, the doctor reminded me I added 25 pounds.
Yeah, that's a lot, 25 pounds. 5:43, more than a dozen alleged gang members being indicted on various charges yesterday, including murder. Slew of shootings that took place in South Brooklyn. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch says the NYPD, Brooklyn DA's office, worked to dismantle the violent 59 Brims and Bloodhound Brims gangs, which are responsible for 19 shootings that killed a rival gang member, injured 9 others between 2021 and 2022.
Including 4 innocent bystanders. It's part of an ongoing war between rival street gangs based primarily in Sheepshead Bay and Coney Island. A war that has terrorized Brooklyn neighborhoods for years.
Yeah, so 14 defendants, 2 as young as 15 and 16 years old, charged in this 129-count indictment following what was a 2-year investigation. The Brooklyn DA says the violence escalated following the killing of one of these gang members, as it often does.
At a time when families were out enjoying the start of summer, 3 shooters unleashed 20 rounds in broad daylight. On video, you can see the chaos unfold, including a couple diving to shield their 9-year-old from bullets.
Yeah, I mean, this was all gang-related violence. They were shooting at one another, not just at average New Yorkers. But, of course, you hit average New Yorkers when you're shooting at one another because lots of people don't have good aim.
Was killed by a rival group. The people who were charged on for his homicide were members of Folk. And so we believe that really sparked the rivalry.
Yeah, lock them up and throw away the key. 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk where we find Justin Ellick.
Thank you, Noam Olid, and we do begin with that very good news for New York Mets fans. This baseball offseason, slugger Pete Alonso and the Mets are in agreement on a 2-year, $54 million contract, sources told ESPN yesterday, ending a lengthy free agency with a return engagement to the only team for which he has played. The deal, which is pending a physical, includes an opt-out after the first season, sources said. Alonso will make $30 million this year. On the ice at MSG, Chris Kreider scored the tie-breaking shorthanded goal midway through the third, and the Rangers rallied to beat the Bruins 3-2. Coming up next for the Rangers, a date with the Pittsburgh Penguins at home tomorrow night. To the NBA and the Barclays Center, where the Nets came back down to earth in the form of a 119-102 loss to the visiting and very lowly Washington Wizards. Up next for the Nets, they'll welcome in the Miami Heat to Brooklyn tomorrow night. Also out of the NBA, the Jimmy Butler saga with the aforementioned Miami Heat ended last night when he was traded to the Golden State Warriors as part of a multi-team mega deal. The Warriors closed the deal for Butler after negotiations to acquire Phoenix Suns star Kevin Durant ended when Durant informed the team he did not want to return to Golden State. The Warriors, Heat, and Suns had been nearing an agreement on a trade that would have landed Butler in Phoenix and Durant back where he won championships in 2017 and 2018.
Durant has played for how many teams now?
Oh, geez, that is a good question.
I mean, I feel like he's played for almost every NBA team at this point.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, if you're counting the Sonic and the Thunder as 2 different teams there.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, if you're counting it
it's like 5 or 6 teams, right?
No, I wouldn't go that far.
No?
5 might even be a stretch. 4 sounds right to me.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but I got to double check on you. I mean, because you got the Warriors, Suns, obviously the Thunder, and where else was he, right? I mean, Am I missing? I feel like I'm missing one.
Yeah.
Am I missing one?
You are, but I can't think what it is.
I feel like I'm missing. I got to double check on that for you now. But that's a good question. Hey, now, keeping me on my toes at 5:47 in the morning. As part of that agreement, Butler will decline his $52 million player option for next season, planning to sign a new 2-year, $100 million deal that carries through the 2026 season. That is your Sports Gnome. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. The search is on for a pair of rideshare bandits who have been attacking drivers for months, stealing tech and thousands of dollars along the way.
NYPD says they've been at it since November, striking at least 22 times in Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. They work both solo and together, hiring a rideshare like Uber or Lyft. Once inside, they threaten or force the driver's cell phones from them and sometimes take their dash cams, too. They've used the phones to steal thousands of dollars through online transfers. Some minor injuries have been reported. Police have released photos of the masked and hoodied suspects. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
There's another Republican candidate entering the crowded race for governor of New Jersey.
Former Englewood Cliffs Mayor Mario Kranjak has announced he's running, endorsed by former House Speaker Newt Gingrich. He's also served as counsel for the Guardian Angels for years. Kranjak telling the New Jersey Monitor his top priority, if elected, would be to cut taxes 2% every year by cutting waste. He was elected Englewood Cliffs mayor in 2016, the first Republican in 40 years to win that job. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
New Jersey Congressman Josh Gottheimer, who, by the way, is also running for governor, laying out plans to make child care more affordable. The Democrat calling to immediately expand the child tax credit to offer $350 every month to families with kids ages 6 to 17.
This legislation will also make these payments available every month instead of waiting until the end of the year, because the bills come due every month. You can't wait till the end of the year to pay your child care bills here. They couldn't afford that to make ends work.
That legislation includes a so-called baby bonus to give an additional $2,000 to families who just had a child.
The high cost of child care means parents have to choose between going to work or sending their kids to child care, because for many, paying for child care actually costs more than they make on the job. Given how important child care is for our families and our economy and our community, and most importantly, for our children and their futures, we must take steps to solve this problem. It is solvable. We can help.
5:51 while we're in New Jersey. A fake video that went viral on social media, mostly on TikTok. It claims to show an ICE raid on a New Jersey restaurant. It didn't happen, but it has scared customers away from coming to this business. The owner of this popular eatery is called La Pupusa Loca. Says that he has a couple of locations, and this fake video made it look like there was an ICE raid on one of the locations. And he says what's happened now is customers are not coming to any of his locations, including the one that's in West New York, New Jersey. And it's unbelievable. I mean, he says business has essentially gone away. It's an El Salvadorian restaurant. And normally he gets people from El Salvador and people from, America or Americans as well. And he says they're just not coming anymore.
A lot of the people that saw the video believed it.
Now, the Barrera family, which has owned this restaurant for 35 years and these multiple locations, says they don't know who's behind this fake TikTok video that seems to show an ICE raid on one of the restaurants.
We're affiliated with the name, so obviously that trauma, that it did scare a lot of people and obviously affected us.
Yeah, of course, people tend to believe, well, a lot of times, what they see on social media, but in this case, it just didn't happen. There was no ICE raid on one of the restaurants.
This person, which I felt like was trying to capitalize off of what we were currently going under, this whole situation.
And that video, by the way, has gone viral, more than 1 million views. And this restaurant, at least the West New York location, has seen an 80% drop in customers in the last couple of weeks. That's huge. I mean, that's enough to close. 5:53. Let's go upstate New York. And what's kind of a crazy story, this judge turning in his robe after saying he could not serve on a jury because he believes all the people that come before him are guilty. That's just what you want to hear a judge say.
Even town court justices get called for jury duty. Justice Richard Snyder just resigned after he was hit with a misconduct charge from a state judicial commission for his excuse to get out of that duty. He told the Rensselaer County judge impaneling a grand jury he couldn't serve because in his words, quote, everybody who come in front of me are guilty. Snyder, who's not an attorney, served for about a decade on the Petersburg Town Court. That's northeast of Albany near the intersection of New York, Massachusetts, and Vermont. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
Let's bring it back here into the city. The MTA announcing what it's calling a retail renaissance at Grand Central Madison Terminal. Have you been there? It's really nice, actually. So now they're adding all these restaurants and shops. You can even get your shoes shined there. They're trying to make it a destination.
Our team at the MTA has added 14 new options for dining and shopping just this year alone, filling 90% of the retail spaces.
That's the customer service chief at the MTA. She says the MTA partnering with a renowned chocolatier, John Torres. I'm not familiar with him, but apparently he is a well-known chocolatier, where they're doing all kinds of special deals leading up to Valentine's Day as they try to bring some traffic to this area, this new spanking brand new terminal, the New York Grand Central Terminal, Madison Terminal.
And it features boxes with a subway car as well as subway route signals.
Yeah, she's talking about these special chocolate boxes that John Torres is selling. 5:55, the police officer in New Jersey being called a hero, a tragedy totally avoided, all thanks to the heroic efforts of this police officer. An 11-year-old boy fell through the ice at a West Long Branch lake on Monday. This officer, David Brosonsky, was just seconds away, so he got the call. He races over to this pond. This kid is in the middle. He had tried to walk across the pond to get home faster, and he broke through. So Brosonsky, who has been an officer for a while, secures a rope around his waist, then jumps into the icy lake. It's called Franklin Lake. And then he swims out to this poor kid who's, not doing so well. And he says he used everything that he learned in the police academy, that you're supposed to sort of like smash hard on the ice, a whole process. Well, here, I'll let him explain.
Boy was definitely, he was panicked. He was yelling that he couldn't feel his feet or arms. I just told him that I was on my way to get him and that everything was going to be all right.
Yeah, so it was 2 days of warmer weather that left the ice dangerously thin. So he wades out to this kid. I mean, he was not close to shore. I mean, he had to go out pretty far. Within 10 minutes, he had brought him back to the side of this lake, and thank God everybody's okay.
How long do you think you were in there, buddy?
Like 5 minutes.
Okay. 5 minutes.
Here to help you. We want to call your mom.
Yeah, so the lake can be between 4 and 7 feet deep. So, this kid was potentially in a part of the lake where it was over his head. He was treading water. Again, thank God everybody's okay. David Brosonsky, no doubt a hero for what he did.
The only thing that went through my mind was, try and get to this kid, give him the help he needed, and bring him back in. Use this opportunity to learn that it's never safe to go on untested ice. It should always be cautious. When in doubt, don't go out.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.